Evening and welcome to our debate on tele-ABA versus in-home therapy. Our presentation group tonight consists of Kirk Blankenship, Christy Bradford, Lisa Kleefman, Megan Wilson, and I'm Nicole Corbett. Due to limited services and long distance from service providers, not all families living in rural areas have access to in-home ABA services. Some families are using alternatives such as telepractice to bring ABA services to their families. This debate discusses pros and cons to both delivery systems. And now Megan will introduce our first side.
I am Megan Wilson, and I currently live in Georgia. I will be presenting the pros to in-home therapy. Imagine you are sitting in the room waiting for the doctor to walk in and tell you the news. You are sitting there thinking it has already been a long, long road trying to figure out what is wrong with your child, or are you really just that bad of a parent? What will the verdict be? Then the doctor walks in, takes a seat, and will tell you that your child has been diagnosed with something called autism spectrum disorder. Many parents have been in this very position. Some of them, it was a very emotional moment in which they felt helpless and powerless, while other parents felt somewhat of a relief to finally have an answer. After the doctor gives the news of diagnosis, the parent tries to gather their thoughts and wrap their mind around the news. Then the parent wonders, what is next? The doctor assures the parent that it is highly recommended that the family get ABA therapy put in place for the child as soon as possible. Ways of providing ABA services are expanding. As a parent, you may not know this, but you have options on what way is best for you and your child to receive these services. One option is that ABA can be implemented in your very own home. The ABA company of your choice or the company that is covered by your insurance can schedule for their therapist to come and provide therapy sessions in your home. Here, your child can be taught interventions in their natural environment. At your home is where you and your child may feel the most comfortable and relaxed. Often children who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder struggle with getting dressed and getting into the car to go to appointment after appointment after appointment. With ABA therapy provided in the home, there can be one less battle for the child and parent. In general, when it comes to in-home ABA, parents have more positive thoughts than negative thoughts. Staff training is provided to ensure correct implementation and consistency across settings, and fidelity of implementation between family, BCBAs, and behavior analysts is evident. Parents have reported their family has benefited from in-home services in a number of ways. Although people who experience the same thing often have different perceptions, mothers and fathers show very few significant differences between perceptions of in-home services. It is safe to say that there is no burden on the family as far as the family having to spend time and money on traveling to appointments at offices and having to get daycare for their other children who are in the home during the time of sessions. Stress reduced in mothers is evident and could be due to the benefits of the in-home services. Parents benefit in that they have additional support in their home. Parents benefit in that their time is freed up for them to do other things. Parents benefit in that they increase their social network. Parents also benefit by increasing their knowledge about ABA. Benefits of the child include progress of language and communication skills and play skills. In-home services can be up to 40 hours a week, whereas other ways ABA can be provided may not be able to allot that amount of time to one individual client. In-home ABA can improve the relationship between the child and their siblings and between the child and their parent. In terms of training, therapist incorrect implementation decreased, demonstration of skill increased, teachers rated procedure favorably, total training took 20 to 32 and a half hours, effective in training skills to trainees, and consistent results across setting, children, program, and trainers. Supporting evidence can be found in the journal articles. Many researchers have provided documentation of benefits in-home services have on the child with autism, but little have provided documentation on the benefits of families as a whole. Grindle, Kozoff, Hastings, and Remington's 2009 article, Parents of Home-Based Applied Behavior Analysis Programs for Young Children with Autism, sheds light on the benefits of the family, not just the child. In this article, 53 parents of children diagnosed with autism were interviewed using a semi-structured format. This structure allowed the parents to talk freely. 32 of the 53 parents were mothers, and 21 of the 53 parents were fathers. The accounts were first person and detailed. The children of these parents had been provided 2 years of early intensive behavioral intervention. There were 29 male children and 3 female children. Families were recruited for interviews through the University of Southampton program, private providers through advertisements on UK ABA websites, and in parent organization newsletters. After interviews, data was coded by a list of themes. Inter-rater agreement was set at 87% across all categories. Bethune and Kaiser's 2017 article, Doing More with Less, Innovative Program Building an ABA in Special Education in Rural Settings, shares that more individuals need to be trained to work in rural communities. A national shortage is reported of people trained to implement ABA. The use of ABA is critical for individuals in need of the services to be successful. An innovative approach to building this is discussed. There is collaboration between the university and local community program to build sustainability. ABA coursework that is needed can overlap the psychology's graduate program and the educational foundations of an externalities graduate program to meet the needs. Special educators can often use ABA procedures anyway. The educators within these departments have a shared vision to support each other. Within this shared vision of support, goals will be achieved. The authors of this article report that they do not have any conflicts of interest in regards to authorship, research, or publication of their article, nor was there any funding received on behalf of the authors in regards to authorship, research, or publication. Wingoff, Zerg, Anderson, and Ali Rizal's 2011 article, Evaluating the Effectiveness of Comprehensive Staff Training Package for Behavior Interventions for Children with Autism, reminds us that the success of procedures depends on fidelity of implementation and the proper training that therapists receive. For this study, 4 participants were monitored over a 3-month period using a changing criteria design. Of the 4 participants, there was a 56-year-old Caucasian graduate female, 34-year-old Arab Middle Eastern graduate female, 19-year-old Caucasian undergraduate female, and 23-year-old Caucasian Hispanic graduate female. The study was done at an autism treatment program that's nonprofit. The skills were measured using a checklist developed. Inter-observer agreement was ranged from 82% to 100%. Assessments were given at the beginning and ending of sessions. Participation satisfaction questionnaires were given and evaluated by a third party as to where anonymous results were provided to researchers. All participants increased correct implementation after training and showed an increase in skill demonstration. This study supports comprehensive package training and effective opposed to training on a single skill set. Again, pros to in-home therapy are parents have more positive thoughts than negative thoughts. Staff training is provided to ensure correct implementation and consistency across settings, and fidelity of implementation between family, BCBAs, and behavior analysts is evident. Following me is Kurt discussing the pros for Tele ABA.
I'm Kirk Blankenship from Dallas, Texas, and I'll be presenting, as Megan said, the pros of Tele ABA. Now, imagine that you were one of the parents Megan talked about who was told that your child has autism spectrum disorder. What if you were subsequently told that the treatment typically recommended for children with that diagnosis was not reasonably available to your child because of your geographic location or economic circumstances? Wouldn't you then be quite relieved to learn that there is a relatively new alternative available that research has shown is effective? That alternative is Tele ABA. Tele ABA is an emerging ABA delivery option utilizing telecommunications and internet technology to make ABA interventions and services available to those who may find accessing traditional in-home therapy difficult or impossible due to geographic location or economics. I'll be using 3 main points to prove that Tele ABA is a valid ABA therapy delivery methodology. First, research literature supports this view, demonstrating that Tele ABA is an effective treatment alternative to exclusive in-home therapy. In a 2017 study by Neely, Rispoli, Giroux, Hong, and Hagen-Burke, entitled Fidelity Outcomes for Autism-Focused Interventionists Coached via Telepractice, a systematic literature review published in the Journal of Developmental and Physical Disabilities, it was shown that telecoaching training programs increased fidelity in both assessment and treatment implementation. The 2013 study, Functional Communication Training via Telehealth to Reduce the Problem Behavior of Young Children with Autism, published by Wacker, Lee, Padilla, Dalmau, Koppelman, Lindgren, Kuhl, and Waldron in the Journal of Developmental and Physical Difficulties, showed that parents trained remotely by behavior analysts through Tele-ABA conducted both functional analyses to identify the function of problem behavior and functional communication training matched to the identified function of the behavior, which reduced problem behaviors an average of 93.5%. The study showed that the procedures trained were quickly acquired by both the parents and parent assistants who had no previous ABA experience. In the 2017 study, Virtual Care Delivery of Applied Behavior Analysis Service to Children with Autism Spectrum Disorders and Related Conditions, conducted by Peterson, Piazza, Luzinski, and Fisher, and published in the journal Behavior Analysis, Research and Practice, Peterson and colleagues showed that Tele-ABA-related developments, such as web-based hardware and software, allow improvements to typical in-home therapy. These improvements include web-based file sharing, which allows concurrent access to data sheets and other materials, observing in real time and natural settings, extended recording times to gather additional data, providing immediate feedback to technicians implementing interventions, and demonstrating correct implementation of interventions. In addition, Peterson and colleagues show that virtual care delivery improved delivery of services at empirically supported intensities or dosage levels. Second, since literature suggests that Tele-ABA is an effective treatment methodology, and BACB Code Section 2.09a states that clients have a right to effective treatment, i.e. based on the research literature and adapted to the individual client, then clients have a right to Tele-ABA in cases where it is a potentially viable alternative to exclusive in-home therapy. In fact, BACB Code Section 2.09a states that behavior analysts always have the obligation to advocate for and educate the client about scientifically supported, most effective treatment procedures. And it indicates that behavior analysts are obligated to educate both themselves and inform their clients about Tele-ABA in cases where Tele-ABA may be indicated. Plus, they are obligated to push the organizations they work for to make these services available or suggest their clients seek Tele-ABA elsewhere. Finally, people with autism live in both urban and rural areas, and whether urban or rural, some clients may find exclusive in-home therapy unaffordable. In these cases, Tele-ABA can still provide needed services because of its long-distance implementation capability and cost-effectiveness. This is supported in the aforementioned 2017 Peterson and colleagues virtual care delivery study, which showed that telepractice can address the disparity in service availability for students in rural areas by allowing them access to providers located far away. The BACB Code Section 2.08c drives home this point, supporting Tele-ABA's inclusion in all BCBA's toolboxes of effective intervention methodologies by stating, in those instances where more than one scientifically supported treatment has been established, additional factors may be considered in selecting interventions, including, but not limited to, efficiency and cost-effectiveness, risks and side effects of the interventions, client preferences, and practitioner experience and training. So, in summary, the three main points are Tele-ABA is an effective treatment alternative to in-home therapy according to research literature. Clients have a right to effective treatment, and due to cost effectiveness and long distance implementation capability, Tele-ABA provides effective intervention to many clients for whom in-home therapy is cost prohibitive and or geographically impossible. Now I'm going to turn it over to Christy to talk about the cons of in-home therapy.
Thank you, Kirk. I'm Christy Bradford from Indiana. I will be presenting the cons of in-home therapy. Yes, there are many pros to in-home therapy. It may be a great alternative to dropping off at the therapy location. It can help families with transportation issues. And for parents who want their child to stay in-home, their child can receive therapy there at home. However, there are some issues that can happen with in-home therapy. The first issue that I want to discuss is BACB Ethics Code 106, Multiple Relationships and Conflicts of Interest. Often, the home-based therapy occurs in communities where everyone knows each other. When this happens, it causes an increased risk of ethical dilemmas, such as students who attend multiple programs encountering the same BCBAs and therapists in different settings. In the rural areas, BCBAs and therapists are often asked to work for no pay, or to work for trading of an item for the therapy. Parents become comfortable with the BCBA and the therapist who are in their home on a daily occasion, and then this turns into the family inviting them to dinner, vacations, and also gift giving. Parents may have a positive thought about in-home therapy, but the second issue I want to discuss is the restraints that in-home therapy puts on the family. The therapist can be in the home as much as 9 hours a day, Monday through Friday. All of the materials that are needed are kept in the home, making the family find a place for them to be kept, even when the therapist is not in their home. There is an increase in the stress level for the family because of this, as well as when a team of specialists come into their home for a significant amount of time discussing their child. The high cost of the program can create larger financial burden on the family. In-home therapy puts restrictions on the family's privacy by individuals being in their home on a daily basis, which also disrupts the family's normal routine. Lastly, for parents, having an in-home therapist can impact their relationship between the two of them. For the siblings, they receive less attention than their sibling with autism, who receives the in-home therapy, and the siblings are also have limited access to different areas of their home. BACB Code 504, Designing Effective Supervision and Training, is hard to do when there's not staff consistency. This is the third issue I would like to address. Staff consistency and training, as well as the supervision available for the therapist. BACB Ethics Code 209, Treatment Intervention Efficiency. The turnover rate of therapists is high, making it difficult to recruit and then keep therapists. This causes problems with the consistency provided of the in-home therapy. With only 1 or 2 therapists trained on a particular in-home program, if one of those individuals becomes sick, then there will not be therapy on that particular day. And this also puts a strain on the family to figure out what is going to happen for their child when they're at work, or they already have their day planned out, which included the therapist being in their home with their child. The last issue I would like to discuss is environmental conditions. If the condition of the environment in which the BCBA and therapists are to implement the therapy is not appropriate, clean, or safe, it can interfere with the therapy. The therapist may not feel safe or comfortable being in the home, therefore quit or feel isolated, therefore being more vulnerable to gradual drift from ethical practices. Again, the cons to in-home therapy are multiple relationships and conflicts of interest, restraints put on the family, effective supervision and training, and finally, concerns about the environmental conditions of in-home therapy. Following me is Lisa Kleefman discussing the cons to Tele-ABA.
Hi, I am Lisa Kleefman from Indiana, and I will be talking to you about the cons for tele-ABA. Like Kirk mentioned, the cost effectiveness of doing tele-ABA may seem like a great option, but those options may not be as effective when it comes to providing effective treatment to clients. When it comes to providing services to clients with autism, tele-ABA may be a treatment option. What families need to be aware of with tele-ABA is what limitations it may have for them. Tele-ABA does have many things that need to be taken into consideration that can cause an issue for the family. The first issue that I will discuss is that tele-ABA requires specific equipment that the family may not be able to have access to. Some people may not have access to the internet at all times or to be able to meet with others at a specific time on the internet to go over important information such as behavior plans. Practitioners and families need to be aware of file sharing and how they are sharing important and confidential information on the internet, such as a client's personal information. With computer hacking being on the rise, files need to be protected so that clients' and families' information are well protected and not being shared with others without permission. If file sharing is not taken seriously and files are being shared haphazardly, this can be a violation of Ethics Code 8.04 with media-based services. The second issue that I will discuss is that with tele-ABA being a newer therapy option, not much research has been conducted on it. Many of the studies out there only provide treatment over a shorter period of time, such as one such study conducting functional communication telehealth to reduce the problem behavior of young children with autism was done over an average of 13 weeks. This is not enough time to be able to see some results or the long-term effects of this type of therapy. Also, with the studies that have been conducted, most only look at providing tele-ABA services for children. With the study that I just mentioned, participants were between the ages of 1.3 years old to 16-year-olds. This does not provide much data for older clients and adults that could benefit from telehealth services. Because there isn't a lot of data out there, it is important to not exaggerate the data or falsify claims that telehealth and tele-ABA is better than in home or in clinic. By reporting wrong claims or data, this is a violation of Ethical Code of Conduct 8.09, accuracy and use of data. The last issue I want to discuss is that of quality of services and providing effective interventions, which may be decreased for clients. With services being conducted over the internet and phone, the effectiveness in interventions may be decreased as opposed to those such as in-home therapy or in-clinic options. According to one study that involved clients with severe feeding problems who were receiving telehealth-related services, some of the clients were not able to continue telehealth services. The article also stated that caregivers and technicians may find the techniques cumbersome and that children of those caregivers may be better served in clinic-based treatment facilities. Treatment fidelity can become an issue when practitioners are not trained properly when using tele-ABA as an option for providing interventions. This could be seen as a violation of Ethical Code 2.09, Treatment and Intervention Efficiency. According to another study, Fidelity Outcomes for Autism-Focused Interventionalists, coached a telepractice, a systematic literature review, states that practitioners should continue to rely on face-to-face training when feasible and supplement with telepractice when necessary. The ease and cost-effectiveness of tele-ABA may seem like a great option, but these issues that I discussed should be taken into consideration. To follow up on the three main concerns that I had discussed, tele-ABA requires specific equipment for individuals involved. With tele-ABA being a newer therapy option, not much research has been conducted, and the quality of services and providing effective interventions may be decreased for clients with using tele-ABA.
At this point, we will shift to the salvage portion of our debate with Megan providing the salvage for in-home services.
Christy mentioned that BACB Ethics Code 1.06, multiple relationships and conflicts of interest, may be violated in rural areas, as BCBAs and therapists are often asked to work for no pay or to work for a trade of an item for therapy. However, BCBAs and therapists can avoid the violation of this code by making sure they follow BACB Ethics Code 1.07D. Services will not be bartered without a written agreement requested by client or supervisee unless it's customary to the area or it's fair in values of services provided. Often with in-home services, parents do become comfortable with the BCBAs and therapists who are in their home on a daily occasion, which can cause the family to feel connected to them enough to consider them part of the family. The family may invite them to dinner, vacations, or try to give gifts. However, with proper schooling and training, a BCBA and therapist will maintain their boundaries at all times. If materials needed for therapy being kept in the home, even when the therapist is not there, is inconvenient for the family, other arrangements can be made for storage of materials. In-home therapy can include client siblings during session. If for some reason the therapist truly needs one-on-one with the client, then this could be the perfect time for the parent to give the sibling attention that the sibling would not normally get due to the parent having to give all their attention to the child with special needs. In regards to BACB Ethics Code 5.04, Designing Effective Supervision and Training, and BACB Ethics Code 2.09, Treatment Intervention Efficiency, universities and companies both are improving every day in their programs and incentives for their students and employees to decrease high turnover and better consistency. Therapists can be trained on all in-home programs versus some therapists being trained on particular in-home programs. Following me is Kurt to salvage the Tele ABA.
Thank you, Megan. The cons that Lisa mentioned are not unusual arguments used against Tele ABA. Just like ABA was 30 years ago, plus many significant improvements that are currently taken for granted as integral to the practice of ABA have also been over the years when they were relatively new on the scene. Tele ABA is currently in the earlier part of its industry-wide acceptance as an effective research-based intervention methodology. There is research backing both the effectiveness and the benefits in cost savings and long-distance delivery by Tele ABA that no other current methodology provides. Yes, Tele ABA does introduce some complications, which are not necessarily considerations with traditional in-home therapy. Some equipment is required for Tele ABA, such as internet access via a computer, with minimal peripheral equipment, such as a printer, speakers, and a reasonably large monitor. However, these are basic items readily available in many homes already. And if not in place, they are inexpensive enough to be quickly covered by the cost savings Tele ABA provides versus in-home therapy. Data and file sharing, while introducing some risks to confidentiality, are also a very basic part of life these days, being integral to common practices such as online shopping, banking, education, and legal transactions. And the potential violations to BACB Code 8.04 that Lisa mentioned are not necessarily limited to instances of Tele ABA. Regarding the relatively short duration of services and the focus on children in many of the studies proving that Tele ABA is an effective intervention delivery methodology, this is not limited to Tele ABA, but instead has been and continues to be very common in ABA research. Those are factors that should be considered when evaluating any research, but they are not at all exclusive to Tele ABA studies. Similarly, the point that exaggerated data and false claims about Tele ABA should not be made and are in violation of BACB Code 9.09 is true of any other intervention or ABA-related study topic. Finally, regarding the argument based on the 2017 Peterson and colleagues study, Virtual Care Delivery of Applied Behavior Analysis Services to Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder and Related Conditions, published in Behavior Analysis, Research and Practice, that some children might be better served by a clinic-based day treatment program, Tele-ABA is usually best suited for clients who actually cannot access clinic-based programs due to distance or economics. The fact is that even though it's new, Tele-ABA is here, has been proven to be effective, and continues to be refined and studied. Tele-ABA is here to stay. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Nicole.
As we come to the end of the formal part of our debate, you may note that the right to effective treatment is really what is most important for all of our clients. Efficiency, location, financial restraints, transportation were all mentioned as obstacles to clients who live in rural areas. So it's important that both options be considered and the best fit for each client be made as we work with each of our individual clients. At this time, we will shift to the questions that have been submitted from our instructor. Our first question: since Tele-ABA can be a wonderful alternative for rural families, what would you do in the following situation? If you were going to provide Tele-ABA for a family that was 5 hours from the closest clinic and you found out in the intake session that the child had severe self-injurious behavior, what would you do? Would you recommend they go to the nearest clinic or pay for a traveling BCBA? Or would you continue with Tele-ABA? Please state how you'd handle this situation and the ethical codes that back up your decision. And Lisa will be providing the response for our team for this question.
Yes. In this situation, we discussed as a group that we would continue with Tele-ABA services. We felt that due to us having the experience and specialties of how to handle the situation, we could continue. We would ensure that we would have a safety plan in place for the client and all of those involved. We would also make sure that treatment fidelity was being done accurately and with having effective training and communication. So the ethical codes that would back up this decision are that of 2.01, accepting clients. As an experienced behavior analyst, we felt that accepting this client and using Tele-ABA was the best option for the client. Ethical 2.01 states that behavior analysts accept as clients only those individuals or entities whose requested services are commensurate with the behavior analyst's education, training, experience, available resources, and organizational policies. In lieu of those conditions, behavior analysts must function under the supervision or in consultation with the behavior analyst whose credentials permit performing such performances or services. Also, we felt that Ethical Code 2.03, consultation behavior analysts arrange for appropriate consultations and referrals based on principally on the best interest of their clients, with appropriate consent and subject to other relevant considerations, including applicable law and contractual obligations. We also discussed that we would need to provide effective treatment and intervention for the client and family. The code of conduct that this goes with is 2.09, treatment and intervention efficiency. Clients have the right to effective treatment. Behavior analysts always have the obligation to advocate for and educate the client about scientifically supported, most effective treatment procedures. Effective treatment procedures have been validated as having both long-term and short-term benefits to clients and society. And lastly, we also felt that Ethical Code 4.03, individualized behavior change programs, goes with this. We will be supported in our decision. The code states that as behavior analysts, the behavior change program would be unique to the behavior and the environmental variables, assessment, results, and the goals of the clients.
Lisa, thank you for that information. Moving on to our second question. Has anyone seen the benefits or detriment of using Tele-ABA firsthand? Give some examples of how you saw Tele-ABA as helpful or harmful, and Megan will be opening the discussion for question 2.
The only experience with Tele-ABA that I have had firsthand is just with the BCBA's supervision, but not the actual therapy. As a behavior therapist running a session in a daycare, our company's office assistant was able to follow my session around using the daycare's Wi-Fi to Skype the BCBA for supervision. Once the session ended, we arranged to Skype later for feedback. This worked out very well. However, when we tried to do the same thing for a client at home, it did not work out as well. We had to use the family's data Wi-Fi to connect to Skype, and that particular family could not afford the data Wi-Fi at the time.
And for the second part of that question, I work in a middle school setting in northern Vermont, and we've always had a difficult time having access to speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and behavior analysts. This year, we're contracting with an online telepractice company to deliver services in the area of speech and language, as well as consultative services in occupational therapy. The services in these areas have been very helpful. Our students are meeting with certified speech language pathologists in the amount of time designated in their IEP. This is a change from the services we had in the past. We were understaffed and the SLP was not consistent in terms of attendance. This year we have been very specific in terms of the way we wanted our services scheduled so that we limit the amount of time that our speech language pathologist assistant is encumbered monitoring the online services. The company has 3 pathologists online at the same time so that 3 different lessons are taking place simultaneously. This has allowed our assistant to be available to run sessions during the remainder of her day. Additionally, there was one SLP who was not a good match for our students, and the company was able to make a switch to meet our needs. While I understand the services offered between an SLP and a BCBA are different, these are some examples of a telepractice service that has been very beneficial to my students. This concludes our presentation for tonight. Thank you for your time, and we hope you have enjoyed our broadcast.